So I thought I'd take a play out of our president's playbook today and say everything you've read about the staffing shortage is fake news. There is no staffing shortage, thank you. It does not exist. It is a feared headline by the failing liberal senior housing news media, okay? So it doesn't exist. But I know you're feeling the pain of it. So people are having a hard time filling jobs. You have jobs that are open today. I think the average length of jobs open is 39 days. I hear providers turning away residents or not offering ancillary services because they don't have the staff to be able to do that. And we've seen, short staff is leading to move-outs, which hits revenue, right? So that's bad as well. So you're wondering, how can I say, that this is fake news and it doesn't really exist? Well, the reason I can do that is you can declare anything as fake news in this day and age. And if you say it long enough and loud enough, it kind of acquires a patina of truth. So let's look at some numbers. So in March of 2017, we had 1 million openings. We hired 584,000 people, and we had 544,000 separations. This year in March, we had 1.1 million openings. We hired 574 and separated 529. So the openings went up a little bit, which is what is in line with we're going to grow as an industry at a pace faster from employment than other industries. But what's fascinating is we're losing 93% of the people we hire. We are just treading water in our employment. We're not net gaining new people. We're just cycling through the same people kind of over and over and over again. The unemployment rate is 3.9%. That's the lowest it's been in 15 years. Now, that still means there's 6.4 million people looking for work. So it's not horribly desperate, it's not great, but there's still 6.4 million people in the traditional population of workers. However, that's missing a few important potential constituencies for us. There's 1.3 million people that are no longer participating in the workforce. They've been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer, so they're not counted. Many of them still want to work. There are 1.1 million people aged 55 or over that are semi-retired, that are working a couple hours here and there, can't really find a full-time job, but may be interested in working. 12.8% unemployment in the teen population. And as you heard, they're a big force in our dietary. As a matter of fact, the study I saw recently from Argenna was the average age of a worker in dietary is 17. So there's a big population of people there looking for work. And of parents with school-age children, people that have children 6 to 17 years of age, only 75% of them participate in the workforce. So there's other pools to go after if we can think about this creatively. And I think one of the things that gets in our way is how we manage our business. So we always do 3 equal shifts, right? Most providers work some variation of 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Why do we do that? Because our workday happens equally across 3 shifts, and we provide the same level of care every hour of the day. Well, we all know that's not true, right? We're providing more care in the morning and the evenings as residents get up and residents go to bed, and then it kind of flattens out. So if you're staffing for peak demand, that 3-hour cycle in the morning, after that peak demand is done, you've got people twiddling their thumbs perhaps, and they're not as busy as they should be, and that can be very expensive. If you're paying labor to provide services that you don't really need on the floor, that can be a challenge. The alternate to that is if you're staffing for less than peak demand, you could do one of 2 things. Not delivering services to your residents, causing move-outs, right, which hits revenue, that's not good, or burning out your staff because they're struggling to keep up and do what they want to do naturally, which is provide great care to your residents. And that tips up your turnover, so that's not good. So can we think about other ways to address this? I've seen some providers that are offering 4 and 2-hour shifts. So they have a core of 8-hour workers and then augmented those peak demands with 4-hour shifts. Most of them are 4. I haven't seen a lot of 2, to be honest with you. So they're trying to go after some of those people that don't want to work full time. Some of those people that have kids in school, or that over 55 person that maybe wants to work 4 hours in the morning and then go play golf, to try to attract them into their communities to help get more people into the workforce, which is something we're going to have to do. All right, so the thing I always hear from our customers, Mark, we don't have enough candidates. We cannot find candidates. There's no candidates out there. That's the biggest problem we have. How many people, by show of hands, experience that pain? Well, you guys are way better than most people. So one of my favorite sourcing activities I see is I love the yard sign. The people that go out and tap the yard in front and go, I'm just going to wait now for that perfect employee to drive by and come in and apply, because that's going to happen. A lot of people spend way too much money on job boards, right? Trying to get your postings up at the top. You're posting every position. It's kind of a crapshoot if you get it. My favorite, and this is true, I can't make this up, a colleague gave me an ad from Craigslist that said, caregiver wanted, verbally abusive, elderly blind man, start immediately. Now, I thought, I'm going to sign up for that job as soon as I can, right? So we heard from our customers that sourcing candidates was a big pain point, so we decided to do some tests with some partners of ours. In the first one, it was driving candidates to a job fair at a rural building, I think, in Kansas. They were getting 1 or 2 candidates to the job fair. The second one was trying to find applicants out of a pool of applicants. So there are people out there that are putting together networks of caregivers, and we focused on caregivers in these 2 studies. So could we drive more volume of applicants? Could we source more applicants, right? In the first case, we marketed primarily through Facebook and got, I think, 8 or 9 people to the job fair where the customer was getting 2 or 3, right? In the second case, we were able to drive 57 applications over a 30-day period. It was 2 communities. We said, give us 2 or 3 job recs that we can focus on. We pushed that to our partners network and got 57 applications. So we were very pleased. You know, we got 4 times as many applicants in the one case and twice as much interest in the other. So I was about to call my customers and say, we figured it out. We can do this. We can get you more candidates. If that's the problem, we've got a solution to the problem. We think we can make this work. So was it a success? It was not. It was an absolute epic fail. Not a single person got hired. Out of all those candidates, not one person got hired. And we're like, okay, where did we go wrong here? We asked our customers, you know, what happened? I don't know. You know, you probably gave us crappy candidates. They weren't any good. And we thought, okay, out of 57 candidates in one case and 8 or 9 in another, the probability of them all being awful was probably pretty low, right? So we said, can we go work with the buildings and just talk to them about what happened? They said, sure, go ahead. So we went into the 4 buildings we worked with, and we started with, what was the real problem? And the answer we heard was, not enough people really came in for an interview. They applied, but then they didn't come in. So we didn't get a lot of flow, you know, through the door. We said, well, tell us how you process applicants. And this is an amalgamation of all of them, but it was common across all 4 of them. One supervisor said, well, I process new applications on Tuesdays and Fridays. So on Tuesdays, I block off a couple hours. I go through all the applications that came in Saturday, Sunday, Monday, pick out who I'm going to call them, and try to get them in. On Friday, I do the same thing, and I'll make some follow-up calls to the people on Tuesday that I haven't heard back from. Okay? So what's wrong with that picture? Number one, you can't wait 3 or 4 days to process an application. Good candidates are gone in 3 to 5 days. So if you're starting the process on day 3 or day 4, you're behind the curve ball right there. Problem number 2 is we looked at the resumes. They were probably 75% millennials. She's calling them. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not picking on millennials. I employ a lot. I fathered 2 of my own just so I could have a pair to study. They don't know you can use this to talk to people. That's not what this is for, right? You can't actually talk to people. If I called one of my sons right now, I'd get voicemail. He would never reply to that. If I texted him 10 seconds later, he'd get right back to me. I don't think I've talked to my kids in 10 years. So we thought, okay, maybe this isn't a sourcing problem. Maybe this is a candidate experience problem, kind of going back to Brian's talk this morning. Maybe the experience the candidates are expecting is different than what we're delivering to them. So we changed it. We went back to some of the people that applied earlier as well as new ones, and we interacted with them through text messaging through the whole process. As soon as they applied, we said, thank you, we'd love to have you in for an interview. We got the interview scheduled. We'd remind them about them. After they came in, we thanked them for coming in, just back and forth. We had an over 90% response rate in the candidate interaction, and we got a lot more people through the door. So at the end of the day, this was actually successful. Before us, our customers were hiring 1 to 3 candidates in about a 30-day period. In this, they hired 8 to 12 in 14 days. So the good news was we got some of those really good people that are off the deck in 3 to 5 days, right? So they got a better quality employee to come into the building, and they got them there much faster. When we interviewed candidates about this process, we said, what'd you think about this? 9 out of 10 said, you know, this was fantastic. This company really cared about me. They wanted me. They were very interested in me as a person. I want to work for a company like that. And I think it was really cool that they used technology to get me in. They dealt with me the way I wanted to be dealt with. So we're happy with that. However, we still have this problem. Everybody we hire walks out the back door. So if we create way more volume coming in, but we don't close the back door, does that really solve the problem for us? Right? So it doesn't. So it's a 2-pronged attack. And when you talk to people, as a matter of fact, I talked to a gentleman on the bus over to the winery yesterday, and he said, for 23 years, every 3 weeks I do a CNA orientation. And I ask him, how many people will be here at the end of 3 years? All the hands go up. I said, if you're here at the end of 3 years, all of you, I'll take you and all your families out for a lobster dinner. Guess how many times he's had to deploy the lobsters? Once in 23 years, right? So why do they leave? They leave because they don't feel valued. We hear a lot of stuff when we talk to people that have terminated. You know, I'm walking down the hallway and something that Jacqueline alluded to, my supervisor walks by me and glances away because they don't recognize me. They don't know my name, right? Another one is, I show up every day, I do my job, I do it well, I never get any recognition for that. The supervisors spend all their time on the people that call off, don't chart, are problem employees, the good people never get recognized. So what employees are looking for, 48% want to be able to provide feedback and have it acted on. In fact, they're likely to stay much higher than people that do not. The millennials are really looking for work-life balance, right? They want flexible scheduling. And 80% of employees want feedback in real time versus traditional reviews. I don't know how many people are still doing the annual review. We stopped that a couple years ago. We do 4 a year, and it works famously. They're 10-minute conversations, and we give interim feedback. But that's kind of what people are looking for. And again, that goes to what's your employee's experience, and what are their expectations? And I think historically as an industry, we've done a great job of being resident-centric, right? We put a lot of time and energy into our residents, which is great. But if we're not shifting to become employee-centric as well, it's not going to matter. We're not going to have residents if we don't have employees. So the voice of employee is important. And I think a lot of providers still do the annual survey. I won't ask for a show of hands. But if you think about the survey and remember some of the turnover stats, we did a study with our Genum last year. 40% of new hires are gone in 90 days. 60% are gone in 6 months. So think about the process of doing an annual employee survey. You do the questions. If you mail it out, you're mailing it out. If you do it electronically, God bless you, that's better. You get the results back, you analyze them, you collate them, you talk to your management team about programs you're going to implement to try to make things better. And by the time you do that, guess what? 25 to 40% of your staff is turned over. So the people you might have been able to save if you were a little more nimble are gone. The people that might have benefited from your programs are out the door. So that really doesn't work. What we've seen work is pulse surveys, very frequent, 1 or 2 question things. We have one, how was work today? Really happy face to really unhappy face. Add comments if you want, it can be anonymous. But give us feedback. Let us know what's going on in the building. Let us know what the satisfaction is at any moment in time in each of our communities so we can take corrective action. So employees want to feel valued. And I think our people here have rewards and recognition programs in place or putting them in place. Okay, so we're seeing a lot more of that. And again, we did another test with a customer and we decided 2 things. One, we didn't want this to be expensive because our premise was people value the recognition more than they do the monetary stuff. And I think that ties to some of the things that Jacqueline said. So we started out with, if you could earn 500 points in a pay period, you'd get a $10 gas card, okay? And this was targeted at the CNA level people. And you would earn points by behaviors we wanted to incent. You showed up for work. You didn't call off. You punched in on time. You punched out on time. You picked up shifts, things like that. Very, very operationally oriented behaviors, right? And so what we wanted to do was see if that moved the needle from a behavior perspective. And so people were able to earn points. They were able to see how they stood next to their peers. They would do stand-ups and award the gas cards to people. And at the end of the day, it really did move the needle quite substantially. What we found was we reduced turnover 67% in this case. Now this is a 9-month number. We haven't been a year with this client yet. But in addition to reducing turnover, we got a 75% reduction in call-offs. Why? 2 reasons. We were telling employees how often they were calling off, and guess what? They don't know that. When we showed them the reports and said, does this feel like Big Brother to you? They said, no, I forgot I called off twice this month already. I didn't know I was about to be written up. I'd rather know that I'm potentially in trouble. We also had a 60% improvement in employees that reported themselves as dissatisfied the first time we did a survey versus neutral to very satisfied after about 4 months. So it really did move the needle. And again, it wasn't very expensive. It was a pretty straightforward program. So avoid the fake news. You can create your own success. Get creative where you look for candidates and how you engage with them. Improve the candidate experience and invest in employee engagement. Turnover is costing this industry a fortune. Every percentage point we can reduce it is a significant savings for us. And remember, there's a lot here, but you don't have to be perfect or really even great at everything. You got to be better than the guy down the street, right? Because that's who you're competing for talent for. So if you can become the employer of choice in your geography, you're going to get the good talent to you naturally. Thank you.